Hey everyone, Adrian Morrison here, and in this video I want to talk about broad targeting. Now, this is a targeting type that most other advertisers would advise against. However, I'm here to tell you that broad targeting can absolutely crush it on your campaigns, but you have to do it the right way. You have to be educated on when to use broad targeting. You know, there's different phases of Facebook advertising when you begin. Like I've said in an earlier video, you're at the infancy. Your account is a baby. You have no data. You have no experience. You have nothing to basically go off of. You got to start somewhere, right? And as you do more, gain more experience, get more data, your ads kind of become more intelligent because of the way that we do everything. And they start to make better decisions. So you can broaden out a little bit. And I mean, you can do some amazing things, but you have to do it the right way. So as you know, there are different targeting types when using Facebook ads. So four of the main things that we go over are precise targeting, broad targeting, lookalike targeting, and no targeting at all, which we'll talk about later. In this video, we're going to go over broad targeting. But right now what you're looking at are the phases of targeting. Typically, if you're new and you have no data built up, you have you don't have a mature Facebook pixel, just everything's brand new. Precise targeting is usually the way to go. But eventually, you can get to broad targeting and it can just absolutely kill it. So I'm going to tell you when you should use broad targeting, why you should use broad targeting, and I'm going to show you an example of a broad targeting campaign split tested toward a precise targeting campaign. So right now, you already should have been through the precise targeting module. So you should already know what precise targeting is at this point. If not, you should go back and watch that video. What we're going to do now is go over some points about broad targeting. So number one is broad targeting means you are hitting massive audiences. So you're hitting broad keywords that render very large audiences. I consider large 3 million people and above. The great thing about these types of audiences, scalability is almost unlimited because you're targeting such a large group of people that it's just your ad can last forever. I have ads targeting very broad communities of people that have gone for over a year now. They've literally been running for over a year and they're still profitable. It's amazing. Now, of course, broad targeting sometimes can mean lower conversion rates because, I mean, the broader you get, the lower quality the traffic starts to become in some cases. And that's why a lot of guys that teach Facebook marketing say, don't target broad, target precise. But there's always pros and cons to everything, right? Everything has a pro and a con. And I'm here to tell you, after doing an insane amount of revenue using Facebook ads, I know exactly when you should leverage broad targeting campaigns, and they can be absolutely massive. The sky is the limit with these, and in some cases, they might perform better than very precise targeted campaigns. But that's only if you do it based off of what I'm going to show you here, okay? Now, let's talk about why broad targeting might have a slightly lower conversion rate. Not guaranteed, not always, but typically. So you have this thing called likers by association. A good friend of mine, his name's Matt, kind of came up with that term, and I really just I like the term. It explains everything perfectly. All right. In the broad keywords, which I'm going to show you an example of, you're obviously going to be hitting some people that really don't care about whatever the keyword is that you're targeting. My mom used to tell me when I was younger, and my dad, that when I was out with my buddies, I never got into a lot of trouble. I had terrible grades in school, but I never got into trouble. I was just always a pretty good kid. Mostly because if I got in trouble, I knew my mom would take away my car, and I did not want to lose my car, so I stayed out of trouble. But I found out very quickly that if I was around other kids that got in trouble, I was still punished. I still got grounded. I still lost my car. And I would tell my mom, well, I didn't do it. Why would I get in trouble? And why am I getting in trouble? Why am I grounded? And she said, because you're guilty by association. You were hanging around them. You should have known better than to be around those kids. You should have left the party. You should have left the whatever. And you shouldn't have been there because, if the police ever showed up and you were in the group, you would be guilty by association. And that always really made me scared to hang out with people that were, bad news. So I never did. Well, anyways, same thing applies with Facebook, but it's called liker by association. Let me give you a real solid example here. If you have somebody that is a friend on Facebook that's in law enforcement, that's in the military, that is a firefighter or an EMT, a doctor, something like that, that makes posts. Let's just say firefighter, okay? Let's say you have a friend that's a firefighter, and he makes a post of an image of a house that was burning down, that was really bad, and says under it, ran into this house, saved, the 5 people in this family. They barely made it out. Say prayers for them. So thankful that we were able to get here in time. Hashtag firefighter. Hashtag, fire department, and so forth. Okay, so you have a friend that made that post. Would you like it? If they made that post and you saw it in the Facebook newsfeed, would you press that little button that says like? Probably so. Now, why would you like a post that has to do about firefighting if you're not a firefighter and you really don't care to be a firefighter? Probably because you were supporting your friend because they just did something freaking amazing, right? You're supporting them, you're proud of them. You do this all the time. You like posts that your friends share on Facebook that you really don't care about. You're just supporting your friend. You're not a avid firefighter niche lover. You're just supporting your friend because they did something amazing, right? And what happens is when you like posts and you like pages and stuff like that have to do with certain niches, you are thrown into a pool of likers by association. Generally, these people end up in broad targeting keywords because it's kind of like anybody that's even vaguely associated with this keyword is thrown into the target audience. That's called likers by association. And that's why sometimes these broad keywords can have lower conversion rates because you're not really hitting the passionate people that are just mega passionate about firefighting or mega passionate about hairdressing or mega passionate about CrossFit or weightlifting or nursing or whatever it may be. You're also hitting their friends that have liked their posts, right? Usually these are going to be more generic targeting keywords. So very generic keywords like nurse, firefighter, firefighters, fire department, fire truck. These are all very generic keywords. Also, typically, broad targeting keywords will have capital letters. They'll start with capital letters, okay? So another way, aside from it being generic, is that it's usually going to have capital letters, all right? And broad targeting keywords are going to be best paired with mature conversion pixels and the ad objectives with Facebook called website conversions. So if you're using broad targeting keywords, you can really crush it with these generic, very high volume keywords if you're using an optimized for conversions Facebook ad and you have an account that you've sent a decent bit of traffic through, a conversion pixel that's learned, who your buyers are. And, a buyer is a buyer is a buyer. Facebook starts to know who buys and who does not buy. It doesn't even have to be niche specific, right? It's just some people are avid spenders on Facebook. Some people don't click ads and don't buy anything. So over time, your Facebook account learns who that is. The only way for that to happen is experience and time, right? Time and traffic. But if you've gotten to this point, to this phase, Facebook will really crush it if you use broad keywords. You can get massive volume, massive scalability, long-term campaigns. I mean, I'm talking about long-term campaigns, but it really is best paired with a mature conversion, website conversion ad. Now, an example of a broad targeted keyword would be Yorkshire Terrier, okay? So an example of a broad targeting keyword is Yorkshire Terrier. So here we are in Facebook. This is just a quick little screenshot. And you can see here we've typed in Yorkshire Terrier. Facebook brings up a couple of keywords: mini Yorkshire Terrier, knick-knack Yorkshire Terriers, Terrier Yorkshire, Yorkshire Terrier Europe, and Yorkshire Terriers. But you'll notice just the generic term for a Yorkie, Yorkshire Terrier, has 3.4 million people associated with it. So that means 3.4 million people on Facebook, in one way or another, are associated with liking something to do with Yorkshire Terriers. Now that is a large audience. And by the way, this is just targeted in the United States, okay? It's targeted in the United States, but 3.4 million, 3.4 million people, okay? Now, you've got all of these people out there, all of these so-called gurus that say don't use broad keywords. They suck. They're not going to give you good conversion rates, and they're going to cost you money. Only do the broad, precise, very, very, very bullseye targeted keywords if you want to make money. Well, it's true that precise targeting crushes it, but there are some cases. If you are using website conversion ads and you're leveraging the intellect of Facebook, like I teach you how to in this course, where broad keywords will do better. They'll crush everything else. I'm going to prove it to you right now. Check this out. Here's a screenshot of a campaign where I split tested broad targeting keywords versus precise targeting. So you'll see on the left where the little green arrow is. I label all of my split tests broad versus precise. And the broad campaign, my average cost per conversion, it's in the green here, in the green box, was $5.25. Okay? That means the average amount of money I spend on Facebook before I generate a sale from this ad campaign is $5.25. The lower your cost per conversion is, the better. If you can have a cost per conversion of like a penny, I mean, I've never seen that before, but I've had it down to like 30 cents. Anyways, you're killing it. That means that you're getting a lot of conversions for a little bit of money. All right, I've spent on that campaign, on the broad keyword campaign, $2,382 over the lifetime of this campaign. Okay, and I've made, where it says registration, I have earned $7,707. So I've spent $2,300 to make $7,700, and you can see I'm targeting 7 million people, a very, very broad audience. Okay, now below it is a precise campaign using precise keywords. So instead of using like Yorkshire Terrier, I'm using something like I love my Yorkies, owned by Yorkies, online Yorkie club. These are very specific, precise, and passionate keywords with smaller audiences that I pull together. Still crushing it. Spent $2,000 and made $5,000. But the broad one is performing better. The ROI is higher with the broad campaign. And guess what? I have more than double the audience that I can advertise to. That means there's more people to show my ad to. This ad's going to last for a longer period of time, and I'm able to scale it. It's going to be consistent. I'm leveraging Facebook's website conversion ads with this, and I mean, it's just doing really, really well. So broad keywords are great if you use them at the right time and with the right product. Okay, remember, there's phases and the types of targeting that you should use. Obviously, you start out with precise targeting if it's a new niche or a new product that you're unsure of. But once you start to get it to convert, you can start testing out some of these broad keywords, and you might find that your conversions are better because Facebook starts to learn who your buyers are and starts to cherry pick them out of that broad audience. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go inside of Facebook and we're just going to mine some broad keywords, okay? We're just going to go over some different types of broad targeting and broad keywords. So let me just go into Facebook ads. Okay, so here we are in Facebook ads. I already have it to the point on where we can create our targeting audience. So if I scroll down here where it says detailed targeting, this is where we can start putting in our keywords. Now, to give you an example of what we just went over, we've got Yorkshire Terrier. I'm going to type that in. And of course, I should probably spell it right. Yorkshire Terrier. Okay, so that keyword is a broad keyword that hits 3.4 million people. Okay, 3.4 million people. Very, very broad keyword. We've got, let's say, Yorkie. All right, so you see some of these, they're smaller audiences, especially ones with like the exclamation points, Yorkie poo, I love my Yorkie. They're not really small. Some of them have 200,000-300,000 people that they're targeting, but they're precise. So if you're looking for broad keywords, you're not for a specific niche. You're not often going to find a massive pool of broad keywords. You're usually only going to find 2 or 3. Here's another example. Grandparent. All right, so grandparent is an interest. It's got 87 million people attached to it. Remember, this is going to have likers by association. So it's probably going to have grandchildren. It's probably going to have sons and daughters. These are people that are, maybe liked a post that their grandma or grandpa made, or maybe they made a post about how they appreciate their grandparents. But it's a very broad interest, okay? A very, very broad interest. So let me make sure I got all genders. If I come in here and I click on grandparent, we're targeting 18 plus year olds in the US. We hit 18 million people. Now, obviously, you cannot be a grandparent, at least that I know of, if you're 18 years old. So if you want to really make sure you're hitting just grandparents with this broad keyword, you can come over here to the age groups, and I would say maybe target 50 plus year olds. And it goes from 18 million to, look at that, we just got rid of 11 million people. 11 million people that said that were associated with grandparents. That's why with these broad keywords, you've got to be careful. And you can oftentimes use gender and age group to help, more precisely target them. But look, now we're left with 7.2 million people that are associated with the keyword grandparent. So they're not all going to be grandparents. Just because you're 50 years old does not mean, by any means, mean that you are a grandparent. But we're targeting a very broad keyword, and we've used the age options to help us kind of leverage that as much as we possibly can. But we also could come in here and look at the other keywords. Look, grandparents, that's a demographic, it's not an interest. But grandparenting, I love being a grandparent, grandparents.com, grandparents cooking. So these are all more precise keywords. National Grandparents Day, very precise keyword. So you got to start, looking through these and you'll find the most generic ones, like I said in the slideshow, are your broad keywords. All right, so let's look at another niche for another like keyword that's broad. How about nursing? Let's say that you're trying to target nursing. There's a lot of stuff for nursing, but you'll notice that you've got fields of study, jobs, employers, schools. Okay, keywords are interests. I call them keywords. Facebook calls them interests. Look at this, 81 million people associated with nursing. That's huge. It's massive. This can work very, very well though. If you're targeting nurses, and both men and women are nurses, so it doesn't really matter what type of targeting, if you do both or not. But we got 19 million people in the US that are 18 plus years old that are interested in nursing. That's a huge audience. You can go to men and you've got, let's see, 3 million people, and you can go to women and it breaks it down to 15 million, or both altogether, 19 million. Okay, so broad audiences, they're going to be these generic keywords. You can go even as generic as dogs. 325 million people, 54 million of which are in the US. So very broad, very, very broad. Now you can use some of these other options down here to kind of create more detailed targeting. So like more categories, behaviors, and you can kind of bundle different things together. So you can kind of look through these and see if anything fits the bill. So for instance, if you're doing broad targeting on a broad keyword like dogs, but you want to try to narrow it down as best you can can come down here to like say behaviors, charitable donations. You could target animal welfare organizations, people that have donated to animal welfare type organizations. Let's see what else we can do here. Because with broad targeting, you can still get pretty broad, but you can also add in some of these types of products. Actually, as a matter of fact, you would want to do narrow audience, and it would say must also at least want to match one of these following things. This is called intersecting. I'm getting a little ahead, but I'm going to show you. It's pretty cool. You could go to, where was it? Behaviors, charitable donations, animal welfare. Watch what this does. It drops it down to 3 million people. Still a very broad audience, but this means that they are associated with liking dogs, and they're also associated with animal welfare. They're associated with both of these. So this is huge when you're using broad targeting, because it can help you kind of narrow down the broad audience. Now we've also got, I think there's a couple of other things in here actually that you can use for animals. Look, pet products. So if you're just doing dogs, you could say dog food, dog owners, dog products, and now we've taken it up to 11 million people, right? So what we're doing is we are intersecting interests, these are keywords, with behaviors. And we've got ourselves a very broad campaign, but also a very targeted campaign. And you pair this with the power of a mature Facebook pixel and a website conversion ad, which is an ad that's optimized for website conversions. I mean, you can kill it. This is like my secret weapon right here. People are like, how the heck do you do it? How do you target very broad audiences and still manage to have such high ROI? And it's because I come in here and I utilize the tools that Facebook gives me. I let Facebook search for, I let them optimize for conversions for me. And the rest is just me point and click, point and click. And I let Facebook do all the hard work. I just have to use my brain a little bit. So I bet right now, if you're watching this, you're like, oh my gosh, this is freaking crazy. That's a good thing. All right. You don't know what it is that you don't know. This is very simple. It's using tools that Facebook gives everybody. And, it's a very broad audience, but it's also very targeted. A very broad yet very targeted audience. You are going to have still likers by association in here. But as you can see from the slideshow, these types of campaigns can absolutely destroy at very high return on investment. So do not let anybody tell you that you should not use broad keywords, because I am living proof that if you use it the right way, you do it the right way at the right time in the phases of targeting, then you can absolutely kill it with these types of broad targeted campaigns. All right, and once again, remember, you can also come up here and toggle the age groups and the genders and narrow it down a little bit, and you can split test with those. So I hope you learned a lot in this campaign about broad targeting. That really sums it up. I know that if you use this strategy, it's just going to help you take it to the next level. So go ahead, get started, or go ahead to the next video and you can learn some more.